And every time I think that people like Kyle or other people who are on board with this 100% like, free speech at all costs stance, they're giving these companies power. Like, YouTube is cucking you because you are ceding the ground to them that you are going to forever be the arbiters of this. You have the control. I don't like this decision you made. I like this decision you made. I don't like this decision you made. But clearly, no matter what happens, I don't have a say. Bear bile, vaping, and sunlight. A list of Fox News' supposed COVID-19 cures and treatments. Bear bile. What is bear bile? Sounds like a non-playable character you want to unlock in a game. You have unlocked bear bile. I assume it's the literal bile of a bear. That's very weird. I was like, I'm not feeling very. No, actually, they're not fools. They're grifters. I gotta use the right terminology. Stomach bile? Wouldn't that like burn? Hey, what up, Vadim? Vadim's here. Everyone, go check out Vadim's channel. He's based. He's making a very important documentary very soon that you all will have to watch. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, I would assume it would burn. I don't know why anyone would do that. It's weird, but hey. Fox's anti-vax programming is a moral abomination, but at least it's great for ratings. You see what's happening right now? There's a lot of people who are pushing a ton of anti-vax hysteria. A lot of right-wingers especially, like Glenn Greenwald is just all over it right now. And if you were curious as to why are they saying go take ivermectin or I can't even pronounce this right now, hydroxychloroquine, it's because it's extremely profitable. Fox News has been running these segments like on repeat because, again, it gets them the views. The really sad thing is that the demographics that they are basically appealing to happen to be people who are conservative, right-wingers, and by consistently giving them this messaging, which is making them not want to get vaccinated, it's also winding up with huge amounts of deaths. If you actually look at the states right now that have the highest rates of deaths from the COVID-19 vaccine, the majority of them are red, which is like, on the one hand, you want to do that thing, right, where you're like, fucking idiots, rubes. But on the other hand, the whole thing is fucking sad. And the shittiest thing about this all is that, like, it's these assholes, whether it be Fox News or other conservatives like Glenn Greenwald, prominent conservative figures, you know, like Glenn Greenwald, he's a pretty prominent conservative figure. They're the ones doing it for profit. And even if you add, and I mean this, if you add a footnote afterwards to be like, oh, and by the way, I'm vaccinated, I just think we should be allowed to ask these questions about whether or not horse paste will cure me, that doesn't absolve you. That doesn't absolve any of you. And anyone who's been fucking profiting off this, profiting off human misery. Like, you're profiting off death, ultimately, by doing this. There's one thing to say. Hey, everybody. There's a drug that's prominently being used right now in South and Central America where they do not have access to vaccines that could potentially show in vitro some promising results in the battle against COVID-19. It's not approved for use in the United States. Doctors can't approve it. And I'm curious to find out more. I'd like to learn about any things that could help in our battle against COVID, especially because it can be produced without a copyright and cheaply. That's one thing. It's another thing to be like, what is up? What is up with all these big pharmas trying to suppress ivermectin? I mean, something's going on there. Feels like a giant conspiracy, doesn't it? You know, the fact that no one lets you talk about this, and now we got YouTube silencing us, like they're shutting our videos down, they're shutting our channels down. I think something's up here. Facebook trying to close all these groups, all these anti-vax groups. What are they hiding? You know, there's a huge difference. Massive. Fox News COVID-19 anti-vaccine commentary is a moral abomination that is driving down vaccination rates and killing Americans, including its viewers. But there's a silver lining, according to Fox insiders. It's great for ratings. One Fox News insider succinctly described the anti-COVID mandate segments and vaccine-resistant commentary as great for ratings. Another current Fox employee said the numbers clearly demonstrated that there are vanishingly fewer subjects these days that get our viewers more excited or engaged than those kinds of segments. In recent weeks, this engaging content that includes the lionization of Americans who are refusing to get get vaccinated, false suggestions that the vaccine is more dangerous than the virus, paranoid fear-mongering about purportedly authoritarian vaccine mandates, and the promotion of phony miracle cures. Meanwhile, Fox says that more than 90% of its full-time employees claim to be vaccinated, and those who aren't required to submit to the daily testing regimen. Fox has a particularly moral responsibility to help to get its viewers to a safe, effective vaccine amid a deadly pandemic. That's because, thanks in part to the network's constant attacks on another news source, the Fox audience is usually reliant on the network for information. Oh, that sucks. The political divide over vaccinations is so large that almost every reliable blue state now has a higher vaccination rate than almost every reliable red state. And that's really sad that, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to have to die to own the libs in this case. And it's getting worse. TDR breaks it down.
Too expendable after spending months on the front lines.
Wait, no, I'm breaking it down right now. What are you trying to do? You're watching me break it down. I can't watch a breakdown of a breakdown. That would be too meta. Oh, shame on you, Flimshaw. Oh, hi. I also wanted to use this to parlay into the big thing that's happening today, which is YouTube is going to ban all vaccine misinformation. Which, good. This is good. It's a little late, but it's good. I mean, I'm going to be of two minds for this, because this is the same preachy thing I have to say every single time when I talk about YouTube censorship. I am very, very happy when YouTube does something like kick Nick Fuentes out of the site. Because Nick Fuentes is a little Nazi, and I'd rather he does not use YouTube as a launching pad to be able to spread Nazi information to a whole bunch of people. Simultaneously, I do not think that YouTube CEOs or decisions or boards or whatever should be the arbiters of who does and does not get kicked out of the platforms that all human beings pretty much use now, which would be social media. The arbiters of what is and what isn't speech should not be in the hands of CEOs. That's a very dangerous precedent. So, I have to advocate for a couple things simultaneously. That doesn't mean that I do not take joy in Nick Fuentes getting crab danced, because if I had the ability to vote, I would have crab danced Nick Fuentes a very long time ago. So, if someone said, hey, Lance, should Nick Fuentes be on the YouTubes? I would say no. And then we'll see what the majority of the public has to say about that. But YouTube is different, and so is just social media, than regular speech. You have to kind of think of it like this. In the normal world, IRL, you go to a bus stop, and you get on top of a soapbox, and I love how soapboxes are a thing. I was like, when was the last time people just had soapboxes on there? Anyways, you get on top of your soapbox and you start rambling off about Nazi shit. You know, the superiority of the Aryan race, all that kind of stuff. And most likely within a couple minutes, you'll have someone punch you in the face, and that'll be the end of it. YouTube, you can start your little channel. You do the exact same speech. You start going off about the superiority of the Aryan race, blah, blah, blah. No one's there to punch you. You might get a couple comments like, your face seems very punchable. You should be punched. But then your video will maybe get a couple shares. Someone will find it. Daily Stormer might tweet about it, or who knows. And then, if it's long, the algorithm, the AI of YouTube, which isn't discerning basically the content itself, I mean, they do a lot better job now than they used to, is going to look at a primary couple of things. One, how long did people watch this Nick Fuentes video for? And did they stay on it? And would they then watch more of his content after seeing his first video? Did they click on more Nick Fuentes videos? Did they stay? Is it addictive? Is it something that keeps people engaged? Do people give thumbs up? Do they get mad and add comments? How much engagement does it create? Will it be useful to show other people this video? See, all of this is very different than being on the soapbox outside by the bus stop, right? It's kind of as if you were outside on the bus stop and then someone else broadcast that to more people on your behalf, and then broadcast that again to more people on your behalf, and then again to more people. It's one of the reasons, like, post-Gamergate, so many channels were starting to blow up. Someone like Sargon of Akkad, for example, because very, very low-effort videos where he would just turn on the microphone. I mean, hypocrite alert, the thing I'm doing right now. Very low-effort videos where he would turn on the microphone, talk for hours on end about things that, like, not a lot of people were talking about in other corners of the internet, how the SJWs and the feminists are trying to destroy society and all this kind of stuff, and then do that for like an hour. That would show to people who would watch it really good results to the AI of YouTube. So then they would forward it to more people, and then more people would watch it, and then more people would watch it, and so on and so on. So anyways, YouTube is now banning all vaccine misinformation. I want to hear what Mr. Kyle Kulinski, free speech absolutist, has to say about this.
Guys, so sorry that the camera's a little crooked. I just finished the show and I wanted to talk a little bit more about this breaking news that just came out. YouTube decided to ban all vaccine misinformation on their platform. So they've already banned about 1 million videos related to the COVID-19 vaccine. I didn't know that, but now they're saying, well, we're also going to do it for measles, mumps, rubella, polio, and all vaccines that are approved through various health bodies throughout the world and the World Health Organization. And you know,
oh shit, Raven G3226. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Everyone who just got a free sub from Raven, give him a big thank you.
Our argument is, hey, this is health misinformation. There are real consequences to it. You know, people might not get the vaccines and they'll end up dying. And basically, it's completely dangerous to just allow this stuff to flourish on the platform. Now, before we get to the policy itself, let's talk a little bit about the vaccines. I'm as pro-vaccine as it gets. There's just no way around it. I got the COVID vaccine. Literally the first day I was allowed to get the COVID vaccine, my entire family was looking for me to get an appointment to get the vaccine in New York. I've seen the data on all the other vaccines, how many countless lives, hundreds of thousands or millions of lives have been saved by all the various vaccines. I mean, they're, ironically to say this, a godsend. They work. There's no doubt about it. The COVID vaccine, I actually have firsthand anecdotal experience with how well it works. Sagar and Jetty got COVID. He had a breakthrough case. He was mildly symptomatic. He did a show with Crystal. Crystal was 4 feet away from him for 2 hours. She should have gotten COVID, given how infectious Delta is. She didn't get it. Amazing. Our speculation is, of course, that she didn't get it because she's vaccinated, and she was one of the people who just wasn't able to get it because she was vaccinated. And of course, I do Crystal Kyle. I'm friends with Crystal. I'm with her all the time. I should have gotten it because she should have gotten it from Sagar. I didn't get it. I credit that to the vaccine. Listen, anecdotes aside, put that aside. Look at the data. Over 90% protection, over 95% protection against severe illness, hospitalization, and death when it comes to any of the vaccines. In the original vaccine trials, not a single person who got the vaccine was hospitalized or died. God, I mean, again, this stuff is absolutely overwhelming with how well it works. Yes, there are some more breakthrough cases with the Delta variant with the vaccines, but the cases are very mild because the vaccine is doing its job and it's working. So we've seen the charts. This really is largely a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I can't say it enough. The vaccine works, and you should definitely...
99.5% of all the people dying right now from COVID-19 are unvaccinated. 99.5%. 0.5% of the people dying from COVID-19 are vaccinated. That's such a striking statistic.
Definitely get it. It's the right thing to do. And
I feel like a big old butt's coming. That was 3 minutes of like, I'm definitely pro-vaccine, and that's awesome. I believe you. I certainly believe you. This is a good anecdote. It's a good story to tell. I mean, people stay for the first 3 minutes who have heard that. That's good. That hopefully gets more people vaccinated.
You don't want to have one of those deathbed transitions that like the 5 or 6 conservative radio hosts, a bunch of them didn't get the vaccine, were vocal about it. Then when they were on their deathbed, they were like, oops, I should have gotten the vaccine. You don't want to be that person, so get vaccinated. Now, having said all that,
there's the but.
This policy from YouTube is a terrible idea. What's the limiting principle? What's the limiting principle? So you say, okay, COVID-19 vaccine misinformation is dangerous. People might die as a result of it. Gotta ban all talk of, being anti-vaxxer for the COVID vaccine. Gotta ban all talk of being anti-vaccine with these other vaccines. If you're gonna do that, then of course, the next logical step, and it's not even really a step, it's just gotta ban all vaccine misinformation. Or excuse me, not vaccine misinformation, all health misinformation. All health misinformation. So forget just vaccines.
So I guess kind of predictable because, he's consistent. Kyle's a very ardent free speech absolutist, but that's the wrong take when it comes to this. The spread of misinformation about the vaccines has been one of the primary factors why people are not getting vaccinated. And I mean, I would have implored Kyle to also read YouTube's regulations on this. And don't worry, I'm going to add because it doesn't matter. YouTube doesn't follow its own TOS most of the time anyway. But it states pretty clearly what they mean by COVID misinformation, recommending as a cure or as a treatment for COVID-19 hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin. Yes, they had to type out ivermectin. The list of things, giving falsifiable information, falsified information about vaccine rates, spreading false rumors about vaccines, all that kind of stuff, talking about demon semen. I mean, they didn't write it, but I'm going to assume if you talk about the demon semen, that probably will get you roasted. But here's the rub. I understand where Kyle's coming from in terms of like, the other day Kyle posted free so-and-so. It was like someone who got roasted on Twitter from posting Holocaust denial jokes. And like the idea is like, well, it doesn't matter. We should have absolute free speech absolutely at all times. Now, we don't have absolute free speech just in regular life. Like it's not a thing. You have much more freedom of speech in America than you do in Europe or in Canada. That's for sure. Like we've got pretty strong regulations in Canada against things like hate speech. But in America, it's almost universal free speech up to the point where you are directly inciting violence, if I'm not mistaken. But that's still not absolutist, right? You don't have 100% free speech. And every time I think that people like Kyle or other people who are on board with this 100% like, free speech at all costs stance, they're giving these companies power. Like YouTube is cucking you because you are ceding the ground to them that you are going to forever be the arbiters of this. You have the control. I don't like this decision you made. I like this decision you made. I don't like this decision you made. But clearly, no matter what happens, I don't have a say. And it sucks, because as someone who's been kicked off of YouTube twice now for false reasons, like, I would like to have had more of a voice, but I don't, and I didn't, and I still don't. I don't have a YouTube rep I can contact. These companies are so monstrously huge. They have so many members that they can't even police this kind of stuff, so they have to rely on artificial intelligence to do it, hence why we have so many problems. And then the other thing about this is that, like, if you had power or control to sway, say, the media, which you do, right? Like, you have bodies or governing bodies in the United States as to what you can and cannot do on public access television. You can't, for example, show dong. I wish you could show dong. If I had my vote, I would definitely vote for that. But there is still a set of rules and regulations permitting you to show or not show dong. So, the slippery slope fallacy that Kyle Kulinski is really worried about here. It's going to start out with, of course, they start with COVID-19 misinformation, which I'm not even fully against, because at the end of the day, yeah, it kind of sucks that some people are unvaccinated. Then the next step, what, is it going to be like all medical information? And then who decides? Who gets to say what is right and wrong? Can I no longer sell you crystals and chakras and all that kind of stuff? I mean, maybe they're going to end up with the situation where it's not just a little thing at the bottom. Like, there's that little thing at the bottom normally, like COVID-19. For more information, contact the CDC. And it's just going to be like plastered in front of you the whole time. Like, demon semen does not control or like cure COVID-19. Do not ingest demon semen. This is all ultimately about demon semen, as I'm sure most of you can tell.
Various medicines for various diseases. So in other words, by this logic, literally all of the field of alternative medicine should be prohibited from existing.
So you agree that we should side with right-wing populists on free speech? God, no. Right-wing populists on free speech? It's wild. My viewpoint, and this is one that, like, I don't understand why people don't talk about more often, is that ooh, this is a great screenshot, by the way. Big tech, like, it needs to be broken up. It needs to be broken up, or part of it needs to be publicly owned at this point. It's grown too powerful. It manipulates and changes our very lives on a global scale. That's a huge problem. We have a concentration of power unlike we've ever seen. Like Mark Zuckerberg, you don't know how much power that one little wiener has. And he's the worst kind of nerd. There's good nerds and there's bad nerds. He's a bad nerd. He's a sweaty bad nerd with a surprisingly huge ass. But like still, I don't like the idea that Mark Zuckerberg, as one of the head CEOs of Facebook. I mean, I know that he's created the Facebook policy guide team, which is, I guess, a little bit of a better policy than just letting a straight CEO make all the final decisions. He's kind of admitted, yes, it's a little bit odd that 1/7 of the planet uses my platform. I need to have a council rather than myself make all the decisions. But still, the ideas of that, it's utterly bizarre to me that people don't look at this and think this is horrifyingly frightening. Like, we're always worried about big government and the deep state controlling us. The deep state is going to soon monitor every single phone call you make. The deep state is going to have social credit scores, just like China. It's going to be like communist China in here, because the deep state is going to rank whether or not you're a good citizen. And then they're going to use these vaccine passports to combine with your health and medical and credit score information and your social score information and blah, blah, blah. We're already doing that, but it's not the government. It's a whole bunch of private corporations. A whole bunch, and again, they're utilizing all our data to sell to bidders, to advertise to you, all that kind of stuff, to sway political organizations. Like, it's horrifying. If YouTube becomes publicly owned, what stops someone from just starting a new video website? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's, okay, there's a law in Germany, and I'm going to look to you Germans right now, right? There's a law in Germany that if a company grows to a certain size, over X amount of employees, at a certain point, the employees have to co-own that company, which I think is a great policy. I would make it universal for all companies, but I know that's just too radical at this point in time. But anyways, rather than have every single person become a co-owner in the company, we don't have that in Canada or the United States. Or I don't think you have that in a lot of the rest of the world, right? Where at a certain point, the co-owners, the people who are working, who are building the widgets in the factories, should also be the people who co-own the factory. So if a company has grown to a certain size in which it is utilizing 1/7 of the world's population, in the case of YouTube, in the case of Facebook, in the case of Alphabet, all these monstrously huge companies, we have given them control over our speech. Like, they are the arbiters of what we consider free speech, which is also horrifying. And the idea, too, that I know people are already saying in chat, but how can you do that? These companies are far too large. It's been done before. I mean, it's not done a lot recently. We've kind of just gotten to this idea where, like, you know, post-Reagan, business has to be as business is. You have to allow the free market to dominate this. You have to allow CEOs and corporations to grow as fast as possible, because if you don't, there's not going to be an incentive for anyone else to start up these incredible companies. But I mean, so much of what has made these tech bros gods on earth, a lot of it came down to them being at the right place in the right time. Whether or not you're from a middle to upper class family, you had the resources to start your own little computer store in your garage, or start a computer company in your garage, to build these things, to grow these empires, to utilize this incredible technology. It is amazing. I'm not against incredible technology that we all need and use. The ironic thing with laws like that came up in Germany that was established after World War II, when progressives from this country helped them rewrite their constitution. Interesting. I didn't know that.
And you should be able to discuss it on YouTube. Now, I'm a big opponent of alternative medicine. The reason it's alternative is because it's not medicine. It didn't make the cut. There's not enough evidence for it to work. So I'm against alternative medicine. But would I ban all talk of alternative medicine? Of course not. See, the idea here is, well, it needs to be proven, and the official authorities need to say this.
But here's a caveat for you, Kyle. Would you also be in favor of someone selling people literal bleach and selling it as a cure? Would that still be protected speech to you? Because if you were telling people to do something that could directly, or someone even selling the idea of drinking literal bleach, because that was the thing, right? Not just the president, who was obviously like, oh, apparently sunlight cures it. But if someone has a YouTube channel where every single day they are resulting in thousands of people getting incredibly sick because all of them are just drinking this bleach, you know, it doesn't. What if it was worse? What if it was like gasoline? What if it was like, welcome, you know, to Dr. Kyle's Incredible Emporium. I now have the cure for all diseases. Every disease could be cured if you just drink gasoline in Roblox. I'm not actually saying this. This is a bit. Would you then be okay with that? Would you say that that person has a right, under freedom of speech, to keep doing that? To keep telling everyone to do this practice that is resulting in thousands of people getting sick and or dying? Like, is that still protected speech?
This is the right path in order for it to be accepted. I got news for you guys.
Vaping ivermectin and bleach cured my COVID? In Roblox.
Guys, the world is a complex place. It's not black and white. There's massive gray area. There was just a story that came out a few months ago in one of the big outlets, New York Times, Washington Post, someplace like that, where they talked about how there's this Alzheimer drug that the evidence shows it doesn't work, but then it was approved by the FDA. What? Now, why is that? Look, there's a lot of corruption in our system. I don't know the specifics of that story, but there are plenty of examples of weird, corrupt deals and legalized bribery in many instances.
But there's a huge difference between someone coming out and being like, hey, by the way, I just want to be able to talk about the story. Like, in the case of ivermectin, if you just, like, not you, Kyle was not on the wrong side of history of this, but when people would just come out and just be like, hey, there's this drug that's being used in Central and South America that in vitro has turned out to have some surprisingly interesting results in relation to COVID. Seems like a neat story. That's all I want to say. That would be totally fine. That's very different than being Brett Weinstein and standing there and being like, I'm unvaccinated, hint, and now, because I'm in a very vulnerable age group, I'm going to take ivermectin, something you can't buy at home, something your doctor can't prescribe for you for this particular disease, and I'm going to try and prevent getting COVID and or cure COVID symptoms with this ivermectin. Those are two very separate things. They're dramatic. Like you said, there's gray area. There's a very gray area. One would be totally fine, and one's something that we should talk about because it's dangerous, and it's going to wind up with a lot of people eating horse paste because it's the only thing they can afford.
The FDA is funded.
Oh, I'm a Kulinski fan too. Kyle seems like, here's the thing. Kyle's principled. Unlike, I think a lot of people in this arena, the political arena, they kind of, they change their beliefs and their views depending on what becomes more popular at any given time, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm very happy now land back is being spoken in a much more positive light, especially even in the SOCDEM sides of the internet. They seem a little bit more receptive to it. That was not the case, even like 5 months ago, people would be like, oh, fucking, yeah, Lance wants to like abolish white people and evict all the white people and send them back to Europe. I'm like, no, I fucking don't. What are you talking about? Like, but some people, their opinions, they change as the Overton window follows them, kind of thing. Kyle and his free speech absolutism, he sticks to it. I disagree with him fundamentally. I don't think there is a slippery slope for every one of these. I think freedom of speech is not the same thing as freedom of consequence. If people are going to come out and say, hey, by the way, chakras can cure COVID, well, there should be a consequence to saying that, especially if the consequence of saying that for the first part is going to be a whole bunch of people get sick and die because they refuse to go to see a doctor or get vaccinated because they were just so concerned over crystal skulls and shit like that, What came out of the Dr. Heem Professor Flowers debate on land back? Incredibly positive things. Like, I'm very happy I called in and had like I don't know what you want to call it, a mini debate with Dr. Heem after, because again, my purpose in talking to people about those issues, like, I don't care if you think that I have been destroyed into the betosphere, or if I don't care also if you think I absolutely demolished someone else, I fucking crushed them, kind of shit. I don't care. I want more people to learn about it. And I want more people to understand the truth behind it. And I want less people to be scared of the idea of land back and not think of it as a thing where people are trying to replace white people or create ethno-national states, and more just honor treaties that were already signed. And also it's a benefit to you because if you happen to already live on one of those properties, some indigenous bands have said, yeah, we're just not going to charge rent because that's not one of our prerogatives. Other indigenous bands are actively trying to save the environment and the world by not allowing people to like drill pipelines or cut down trees in their land. So it's also a net benefit to everybody. That's more important to me is if 100 or 2,000 kids can learn that, or 3,000 kids can learn whatever that is. That's a win. That's what makes me happy. That's poggies in my mind. That's way more important to me than having the Debato Lord status and the crystal skulls.
By the same pharmaceutical companies they're supposed to be regulating. So if the FDA says, hey, all of these...
yeah, and that's another thing. What J.M. Bob is saying in the chat, it's kind of funny that every single time there's a new... And this also is a bit of it's going to be a little slag on the left here, because for some reason leftists are really scared about adopting new technologies. So, like, I have no problem with joining other alternative streaming sites. Like, I just want to put the videos on every site that has them. But those video sites that are free speech absolutist sites, like your D-Lives and your Gabs and all those kind of things... they always seem to get filled up with the Nazis. Because it's just like, well, yeah, like nowhere else has been welcoming this line of thought because it's kind of archaic and counterintuitive to society. Everywhere we start putting up videos, they trash us. Well, let's go to this new one because there's free speech all the way. I believe Dr. Himdo tried to use his chat with you as a cudgel to attack Professor Flowers. I don't think you should be attacking Professor... Like, here's the thing. I have been called out, and justifiably, for not knowing enough about a topic before I spoke about it. And then I was like, you are correct. And so I had to go back and I had to learn about it more, and then come forward and be like, all right, now I know more about this topic and come forward. That, to me, it is more important. And I would love to talk to Professor Flowers. I do not think Professor Flowers is a pro genocide individual or whatever she's been accused of. I would gladly talk to her. And yes, it would be more important for me to have a conversation with Professor Flowers and have her learn about land back and then teach other people about it. That would be more important to me than scoring that massive dunk, I mean, in the US, that's all indigenous people were asking for, to live up to what the claims of the honors of the treaties. It's the exact same thing as Canada. That's why it's winning in courts in Canada. That's why, like, the BC Supreme Court, the Canadian Supreme Court are like, oh yeah, this is all they're asking for. They're just asking for you to honor the original treaties. They're not saying get the fuck off the country. Like, it's not like get off my lawn, get off my couch. It's just like we're just trying not to get killed and slaughtered. That's all. We're just not wanting to be genocided.
This medicine is good. Well, should I trust them 100% of the time? No. Like, again, don't get it twisted. The COVID-19 vaccine works. Get it. It's the right thing to do. But is literally everything the FDA says, or the CDC says, or the World Health Organization, is all of it true across the board 100% of the time? Of course not. Because we're all humans. We're all biased. We're all fallible. There are institutional problems with the funding with a lot of those places. Early on in the pandemic, they got a million things wrong. And now we're supposed to say everything they put out there is gospel and you should ban anybody who doesn't toe the line on that stuff?
So here, this comes down to it. This is the important thing. So what Kyle is worried about should be, his anger should be pointed at YouTube, at Alphabet, at the fact they are the arbiters of this. They're the ones who get to pick and choose. They're the ones who decide, and we don't have any recourse. Like, the closest thing that I've found in all my time on YouTube is FairTube. By the way, join the FairTube union. It's awesome. You don't have to pay dues yet. It's got a great community. They can help you out in a lot of cases. They actually will listen to you. Like, there's been times when people's channels, smaller channels, get shut down. Samuel's channel got shut down. He joined the FairTube union. FairTube union got his channel back. They actually, like, they help negotiate with you a little bit. But that's as close as we get. And that's just dust in the wind compared to the power that these companies have.
Hey, do you like movies? Do you like Serfs? Do you want movies and Serfs watching the movies? So then come over to the new channels. It's the Serfs, the cinema. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like, just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, may you shower us mortals with gifts from the heaven. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are your humble jesters, clowning around for your amusement. To our lord, Trevor R. and Alexander Thaler, we give you our thanks for this meager land for us to toil our seed. To our knights of the Round Table, Hagbard Sealine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariana McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Tom Groh, Val 9000, Jenna Tal, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Chronic de Hemphog, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our glasses and we salute you, our comrades.